Okay, thank you, Anna. So I'm Tania Johnston. I'm a clinical psychologist and a PhD student. And together with Nicolas, who is a forensic psychologist and PhD student, we are going to talk about how we're trying to integrate virtual reality into rehabilitation programs for perpetrators in prison and in probation settings.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, just a bit about how this is going to go. First, we will do a 25 minutes presentation of the work we are trying to do, basically. We will very briefly present the European project that this work forms part of. Then I will show you the work we have been doing in our group using virtual reality for work with perpetrators. And finally, Nicolas will talk to you about VR and rehabilitation in prison. Then there will be a group discussion. We will suggest some topics that we would like to discuss with you, and you will go into breakout rooms to discuss them. And finally, we'll get back together and have a general discussion all together. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. And at the end of the whole presentation, we can have a little look. Okay, so first a few words about the VR Per GENERE project that stands for Virtual Reality Prevention of Gender Violence in Europe, based on neuroscience of embodiment, perspective, and empathy. And in which we aim to do, on one side, primary prevention of intimate partner violence and of dating violence, and secondary prevention with perpetrators through the improvement, basically, of classic rehabilitation strategies. And so today we will focus on this later point. Okay, so one term you need to be familiar with before we start is that of embodiment, which is when a virtual body is spatially coincident with the participant's real body, which is seen through the eyes of the virtual body. This is called first-person perspective. And we call body ownership the sense of being that virtual body. So here you see that when the participant looks towards her body, she sees the virtual body. This is embodiment. Okay, and the studies in our lab strongly suggest that people tend to respond realistically inside the virtual reality, and also to take the characteristics of the avatar they are embodied in. And this in terms of physiological responses, cognition, and emotions and behavior. But I think that what interests us the most here is that embodiment in virtual avatars allows people to experience situations from another perspective. And this brings me to the second part of the presentation about the potential of embodiment in virtual avatars for work with perpetrators. So we're going to show you two videos for you to understand how we actually do things. I think it's better to do it this way. And then I will briefly describe our important findings. So when a participant is brought to an experiment, this is what happens.
Bueno, me veo en un espejo, parece que tengo cuerpo de chica. Y bueno, este espejo tiene un marco dorado, la habitación es blanca, hay una mesa, un cuadro, veo una foto.
Can you hear me? I hear a strange echo.
Should be fine now. There was somebody who was unmuted in the chat, so I just muted this person, so it should be fine now.
Okay, sorry about that. So did everyone hear what was going on in the previous video?
No, I think, could you play that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay.
Bueno, me veo en un espejo, parece que tengo cuerpo de chica. Y bueno, este espejo tiene un marco dorado, la habitación es blanca, hay una mesa, un cuadro, veo una alfombra blanca, roja también.
Luego de tocar todas las esferas, estas aparecerán en otro lugar. Toca las esferas para comenzar.
Okay, so basically every participant starts with this process in order for them to feel they are in the virtual body. And then we are going to show you the scene that they experience. So they are in the body of the woman that you just saw in the mirror.
Hey, what are you doing? I said, what the hell are you doing? Have you seen yourself in the mirror? I mean, where do you think you're going looking like that, huh? You could put some effort in and dress up or something. Jeez, you look 20 years older than you actually are. Do you know, there's not one woman out there who looks as wretched as you do right now. You're disgusting. Aren't you going to say anything?
Oh, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, of course. You shut up. Nothing. Typical you. You know, it pisses me off. I have to come home every day and look at your shitty face. That scared little puppy dog face. When we married, you were hot. But look at you now. Huh? You look like shit. I mean, what the fuck am I meant to do with you? Hmm? Tell me, what the fuck am I meant to do with you? I've given you everything you've ever wanted. You got this flat, I support you. And how do you repay me? By fucking me over. With your fucking silence. With your little sighs. Yeah? Screwing me over with your shitty face. Fucking me over. Every time I walk out that fucking door, you run to that phone. Yeah? Yeah, you love it, don't you, you fat cow? Sitting on your ass for hours talking. Well, that's going to stop. That's going to stop right now. Do you see that phone? Do you fucking see it? Yeah? Well, there goes the fucking phone. And you can forget about your fucking mobile as well. The only mobile in this house is going to be mine. Who pays the bills? Yeah, I do. So you can go fuck yourself and bloody forget about it. Bloody hell. All you do is eat all day. Look at you, you fat cow. All you do is fucking eat and fuck things up. Out of everyone, every woman in the fucking world, I had to choose you. And do you know what pisses me off the most? It's my fault. This is all my fault. I've been too soft on you. Yeah. I've been too patient. But you know why? Because I love you. It's because I fucking love you. I just want you to be a woman that's worth my while. Instead of this fucking fat, stupid piece of shit that you've become.
Okay, so this is the scene that we have been using with offenders. It was developed with clinical psychologists, and we can discuss this at the end of the session if you like. So Using this scene, a first study that was published last year by Seinfeld et al. Explored the impact of embodiment as the victim on empathy. So for that, 20 offenders in probation and 19 controls completed a social desirability and an empathy questionnaire and an emotion recognition task called face-body compound, before and after the virtual reality. So the face-body compound, sorry, let me try to find, okay. The face-body compound is a cognitive task in which you have to classify as fast as possible the emotion expressed by the face, but not the body of the person. And we use it as a proxy of empathy because, as Nicolas will discuss later, usually perpetrators answer in a socially desirable way, and so we can't trust basically our measures unless they're more implicit. So what was found was that, as expected, perpetrators showed a high level of social desirability, so we could not use the questionnaires. However, at the emotion recognition level, before the VR, perpetrators had a lower ability than controls to recognize fear in faces of women compared to controls. And they had a bias towards classifying faces of fear as happy, which is problematic. And after the VR, there was an improvement in fear recognition and also a reduction of that bias. Another study published this year, but only with non-offenders, showed that embodiment as the victim allowed a reduction in implicit prejudice against women, and that the stronger the feelings that they were the woman during the scene, the larger the reduction in that implicit bias. So based on these previous findings, in the VR Per GENERE project, we want to explore how we can integrate the VR in the existing rehabilitation programs in a systematic way. And Nicolas will talk about this later. But also, what are the outcomes of embodiment as the victim with perpetrators in prison? Because the previous studies were done in probation. And also how we can maybe improve the outcomes of the VR that we already found. Do we need to develop other scenes? What is the role of the perspective from which you experience the scene? Can we strengthen the emotional impact of this scene, and does that have an effect? So to answer these two last questions, in the last study that I will present you, we tried to enhance the emotional impact during the VR in a prison population. So the study had the same design, as the one I just presented, but half of the group experienced the normal VR, and half of the group experienced an enhanced version of the VR, in which they heard at the same time as the scene a fake accelerated heartbeat. And we measured reported emotional experience, reported bodily sensations. So basically it measures the physical fight or flight response that people might have during the scene, and emotion recognition via the face-body compound. And what we found was that embodiment as the victim enhanced recognition of anger in prisoners, but not recognition of fear, which was the case in the probation group. And the participants with the fake feedback felt more anxious during the VR, found the scene more violent, and felt more threatened. However, this did not result in higher bodily sensations, higher physical fight or flight response, and this did not predict improvements in emotion recognition. So basically, there is no use to adding a fake feedback. What did predict the improvements, however, is is when people had an increased bodily sensation during the VR. The higher the increase during the VR, the higher the improvement. And also the duration of the sentence of the perpetrator predicted whether they would improve or not. The longer the sentence, the lower the improvements. So we're still trying to make sense of these results, but it does seem like the nature and the duration of the sentence are involved in the outcomes. And this could be due to maybe differences in profiles or types of offense between probation and prison perpetrators. This morning, Laura Negredo was mentioning that very often probation perpetrators have rather committed psychological violence. So maybe this influences somehow the results. And there's also something going on with physical, but not cognitive, emotional arousal. So this could be a result per se, but it could also be due to like a deficit maybe in perpetrators to recognize their own emotions. So we would be very interested if you have any thoughts about this to discuss it later. Thank you. I'm handing on to Nicolas.
Nicolas, you're muted. In case you're talking to us. I don't know who you're talking to, but if you're talking to us, you're muted.
Mute. Thank you, Tania. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm trying to share my computer. One moment, please. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see the
presentation. Okay, hello, everybody. Now I will talk to you about how we are trying to integrate virtual reality in rehabilitation programs in prisons. So before I start talking about our work in prison, it is interesting to know that this virtual reality has been integrated in probation programs in the Catalan rehabilitation system for the last year, and there is an ongoing study on recidivism rates on an alert sample. Okay, so in this slide, you can see the number of aggressors in prison, in Catalan prisons, that benefited from our standard rehabilitation program each year between 2009 and 2018. You can see that an average of 500 men per year do it more or less. We still don't have data from 2018, but I think they will be very similar. In 2019, we have tested virtual reality with about 60 or 70 prisoners in different experiments carried out between Tania and I, as we have explained it to you in previous slides. Okay. The rehabilitation programs for gender violence in prisons are designed as follows. Perpetrators participate in 31 group sessions. This is the latest version of our rehabilitation programs. Perpetrators participate in 31 group sessions, 1 hour and a half each session, which are complemented with individual intervention aimed at working on emotional aspects that the group sessions may generate. We do 3 sessions or 4 per week, and it means that the program lasts about 2 months or 3. The program runs with a team made of a psychologist and a social educator. This is the typical team in prisons. Previously, some of these perpetrators may have completed other programs, such as you can see in the slide, such as change motivation, programs about health, about sexuality, about cognitive distortions, or about drug addictions if it's necessary. Okay. These are the issues we work on in rehabilitation programs. I think they are not very different from what is being done in other countries. And as you can see, empathy is the term that we have highlighted because that is where we are applying virtual reality. I thought this type of rehabilitation programs have provided reasonably good results, but we think that virtual reality can offer added value to them because it is about living an almost real experience. With virtual reality, we not only explain what empathy is, but we try to put the aggressor in the victim's shoes so that he can experience something closer to reality instead of only imagining it. But what are we doing with virtual reality and empathy? As you can see, several studies that we don't have enough time to talk about it in this workshop link empathy with prosocial behavior. We also know that the emotional reconnection is related to empathy. So in our latest experiments, we are taking empathy measures, different empathy measures, with different methodologies, such as questionnaires like ERI, the Interpersonal Responsibility Index. This is a traditional questionnaire about empathy. Empathic accuracy. This is a methodology. In this methodology, we expose the participants to videos with a sense of intimate partner violence before and after the virtual reality session, and ask them to write what they think about. We use, obviously, the face body compound for measures about the capacity of recognize emotions. And finally, we use a virtual reality experience questionnaire to better understand how they perceived the experience. Okay, all of that is very important to know that all of that measures, we have all of that measures pre and post virtual reality exposure. Okay, in this moment we have data from a sample of only of 8 perpetrators, and we will enlarge the sample in the next months. So I cannot present any data right now, but what we do now from another study we just finished is that the ERI, the questionnaire about empathy, that does not seem to be a good measure for empathy in prison perpetrators. And so we are expecting our more implicit measures to work better. This is a preliminary result. Okay. We are. Oh, you can hear the video. Yes. Okay. We want to show you some perpetrators' experience with a video and thoughts of their virtual reality experience. The testimonials are in Spanish, but you can read subtitles in English. Okay. I put the video.
Y te hace recapacitar, te hace ver las cosas de otra manera, ¿no? Sentirte un poco, ponerte y sentirte en la situación de, en este caso de mi pareja, pues el fallo que tuve, y bueno, te hace ver las cosas desde otro punto de vista. te das cuenta de los errores que has cometido y te ayuda a comprender un poco, ¿no? Y si lo analizas bien, pues sacar los puntos donde has fallado y intentar de no volver a cometer esos fallos. Pero sobre todo eso, te ayuda a entender, ¿no? la segunda parte, la persona que está en ese momento sufriendo esa agresión, pues te ayuda mucho a entenderla a ella. Y la verdad es que lo vi me ayudó bastante porque me hizo reflexionar mucho. Lo que más me impactó es ponerme yo en la piel cuando yo era la mujer, por ejemplo, ¿no? Y venía el chico a chillarme, se me iba acercando, la impotencia que sientes al ver la situación esa y no puedes hacer nada, porque por miedo, en este caso, por miedo de ella, ¿no? Que se siente tan cohibida, se siente tan vulnerable, ¿no? Que te hace darte cuenta y dices, hostias, este monstruo soy yo. Puede ayudar siempre y cuando sea consciente la persona que ha cometido el delito y lo vea bien claro. Si esa persona piensa que no ha cometido un delito, que eso es una cosa normal, no le va a ayudar en nada, ¿no? Pero yo hablo por mí y a mí me ayudó mucho. Me ayudó mucho porque me puse enseguida en la piel de la otra persona, porque no es una cosa que yo haga. Y bueno, pues ha sido una vez que lo hice y la verdad he perdido mucho y se lo he hecho a la pareja que más quiero. Si la quiero, ¿cómo le hago esto, no? ¿Cómo puedo hacerle yo esto a una persona que realmente la quieres? Sí que no era yo, que iba inducido por el alcohol, porque en mis plenas facultades físicas no lo haría, vamos, ni loco. Entonces te ayuda, ¿no?, a entender el por qué has llegado a ese punto. Yo me gusta hacer muchas reflexiones y me hizo reflexionar bastante, ¿no? Y gracias a ello, pues ahora cuando salga de ayuda voy a pedir ayuda para no volver a cometer los fallos estos, porque tengo una cría y tampoco quiero que hacerle pasar por cosas así, ni que vea cosas de estas, ni que diga, hostia, mi padre. Entonces te hace pensar en muchos puntos, ¿no? Este programa que hicimos. La verdad que a mí me ha servido de mucho y lo valoro mucho. La verdad es que lo valoro mucho porque quiero ayudarme primero a mí para poder luego dar lo mejor de mí.
Da miedo, ¿no?
This is a second testimony, but we have not enough time for see all the video. I'm sorry. Okay. Finally, we can finish our presentation talking about the future projects and experiments that we are preparing now. Okay. Next year, we have different goals, as you can see in this slide. First of all, we want to present more conclusive results based on larger samples. We want to better understand the processes involved in the positive outcomes we found. And finally, we are designing new experiments such as Converself. Converself is another virtual reality scene that we are designing based on the conversation between the aggressor and the victim, in which he himself must answer the victim's questions about his behavior. It's something strange. And finally, we are trying to design some experiments with young offenders that we hope to present in other congresses. Thank you very much. And I think we are in time.